welcome to this week's edition of the Pete Mezzetti Show. I'm your host. My guest this evening is local author Bob Steele. Bob, welcome.
Thank you, Pete. Nice to be here again.
Nice to see you again. Nice to see you again. For our viewers and listeners that don't know who Bob Steele is, I was wondering if you can maybe tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I live in Essex.
Okay.
I represented Eastern Connecticut in Congress for several years.
Mm-hmm.
I was candidate for nominee for governor of Connecticut.
Yeah.
I was an officer in the Central Intelligence Agency.
All right.
And most recently, as you know, I'm the author of this book, The Curse.
Okay.
Big time gambling, seduction of a small New England town.
Okay.
The book is a novel.
All right.
It's set against the factual backdrop of the explosion of casino gambling here in Connecticut back in the 1990s when two Indian tribes, of course, built the world's two biggest casinos in New London County.
Okay. Now, from what I understand by doing research, I guess that you've spoken to over 300 groups across New England and New York on the book, on the casino issue since you've last taped with us. How's the book and the casino battle going?
Well, the book's going very well.
Good.
It's going into its second printing.
All right.
I'm getting reviews from all over the country now.
Right.
As you said, I've talked to some 350 groups, civic groups, colleges, professional groups, historical societies, churches across New England and New York on the subject of the spread of casino gambling across the country and its impact on the country.
All right.
And as a matter of fact, I'm going to be speaking at the Essex Congregational Church on Valentine's Day on Sunday, February 14th in Essex.
All right. And what time are you speaking?
I'm speaking at 2 o'clock.
Okay, great.
So most of my talks are quite a distance away, but this one is right in my hometown, so I'm pleased about that.
This is hometown local, which is always going to be a good thing. Hopefully we're going to get a good turnout for the event that evening.
I hope so.
And as far as I understand, just by doing some research, that there was a review by, I believe it was WBZ up in Boston on the book?
Yeah, Dan Ray did the review for WBZ Boston, and he was great. I was on his show for a couple hours one night, as a matter of fact, up in Boston.
All right.
And he's been one of the reviewers.
Really? Nice. Now, as far as the casino industries go, I guess what are the pros and cons of opening the third casino in the state of Connecticut?
Well, of course, we already have two of the biggest casinos in the world here in Connecticut, in Montville and in Ledyard.
Yep.
The legislature and the tribes want to open, to start with, one new so-called convenience casino up in the Hartford area.
Okay.
In order to hopefully, on their part, to intercept Connecticut residents who might be tempted to go to Springfield to the new MGM casino in Springfield to gamble. And they hope a small convenience casino will encourage people to stay in Connecticut instead of going up to MGM, which is highly unlikely to happen, but nonetheless, the legislature seems determined to build it. It has set in progress a procedure according to which various towns would submit bids, essentially, to host the casino. The two casinos, or the two tribes, owners of the two big casinos, would work together, would jointly own and operate the casino, and would choose the town or the bid from whatever town it may be, and then the legislature would have to approve that bid, and the legislature would also have to formally vote to legalize a commercial casino in Connecticut, because right now commercial casinos, of course, are illegal. All we have are two Indian casinos on Indian reservations.
Now, what's the difference between a regular casino like Foxwoods or MGM and what's a convenience casino?
A convenience casino is a convenient name for a smaller kind of satellite casino that is designed to pull in as many local people as possible.
Okay.
It really operates within a radius of maybe 10 or 20 miles.
All right.
And it is dependent on attracting local people who come frequently to the casino. So there's a big difference between a convenience casino and a resort casino, which pulls from a larger area. You know, originally the only casinos were only legal in Las Vegas, and of course, and people would fly to Las Vegas, and maybe they'd go once a year, or they go twice a year, or whatever it may be, if they like to gamble. Then Atlantic City opened back in the late 1970s, and now there was a West Coast center for casino gambling and an East Coast center. What has happened since then is more and more states have legalized commercial casinos, and more Indian tribes have opened casinos across the nation. There are now Indian casinos in some 28 states across the country. Back in 1988, there were only casinos in Las Vegas and Atlantic City. Today we have almost 1,000 casinos, just about equally divided between Indian-owned casinos and commercially owned non-Indian casinos. Almost 1,000 of them. And the country, and especially where we are here in the Northeast, is becoming saturated. In fact, in many areas, oversaturated with casinos. And as a result, what you've seen is casinos closing in New Jersey. You've seen, whether it be in Maryland, or it be in Ohio, or now even in Massachusetts with a new casino up there in Plainville, they are all substantially behind their original projections. In the case of Ohio, Maryland, and now Plainville, about 40% behind their projections. And you asked me what the pros and cons are. The pros are the legislative backers and the tribes hope that they'll be able to expand the market for casino gambling in Connecticut, pull in more people from local towns in northern Connecticut, and keep their businesses going, because their businesses are, of course, in trouble. Foxwoods and Mohegan Sun have now the revenue that they're bringing in from slot machines is down some 40%. They've laid off over 10,000 employees. More increasingly, they're going to part-time jobs in order to reduce overall wage costs and eliminate medical benefits. And of course, Foxwoods is mired in debt today, and so they hope that what they can do is revive the casino industry business in Connecticut by building another casino in northern Connecticut. But what we're seeing is that even in Massachusetts, this new casino in Massachusetts is falling way behind projections. And it's very likely the same thing would happen here in Connecticut.
And I guess my other question is, what towns are tribes most likely to choose for a proposed casino?
Well, there are 4 towns that have expressed interest. Windsor Locks, Hartford, East Windsor, and East Hartford. I really can't answer your question as to which one is most likely. What has to happen is that each town has to go through some kind of formal procedure to approve making a formal bid. And at that point, the owners of the casino, the Mohegans tribe and the Mashantucket Pequot tribe, will make a decision as to which town they'd like to go into, or which town looks like it is most likely they can get into. And then the legislature will have to vote to approve their choice and approve the proposal. And then the legislature, as I said earlier, will have to actually vote on legalizing a commercial casino for Connecticut.
Now, I guess, will the town residents get to vote if they want a casino in their town or not?
That's a very good question. In East Hartford, evidently the answer is no, because the state charter or the town charter leaves that up to the town council.
Okay.
But in East Windsor, the initial indication is that people will have a chance to vote.
Really?
In Windsor Locks, the initial indication is people will have a chance to vote. In Hartford, it is unclear right now.
Okay.
You also asked me about the con. What are the cons of a casino? We talked about some of the pros.
We've talked about pros. Let's talk about some of the cons.
Yeah, trying to bring in revenue, trying to save some casino jobs. The cons are that casino gambling, first of all, is a declining industry. We see that all over the Northeast today. And as a result, while casinos start strong, the business quickly begins to go downhill. Secondly, casinos bring a whole truckload of negative baggage with them. They bring a gambling addiction.
Yeah.
They bring crime. For example, in Eastern Connecticut, despite the fact that there has been a major drop in crime across the state of Connecticut and across the nation over the last 20, 30 years. Crime actually, violent crimes have actually gone up in the towns around the casinos in Eastern Connecticut. Wow. Violent crimes such as murder, rape, aggravated assault, robbery, etc. Moreover, according to a new study by Western Connecticut State University, the value of property crimes, that is the amount stolen, is up about 40%. And according to the author of the study, there have also been increases in nonviolent crimes such as prostitution, illicit drug use, etc.
Wow, it's pretty substantial as far as demographics go.
It's the only reason these things happen is because our legislators really don't do their homework. It's a short-term gain to bring in short-term money. They're very, very impressed with the revenue that come to the state. The unions argue that it's jobs. All of those jobs are funded by the gambling losses of Connecticut people. In this case, will be in this case, because this casino, if it is built, will draw from local towns and almost overwhelmingly Connecticut people.
All right. Bob Steele, would you mind sticking around for another segment?
Be happy to.
All right, we'll be right back.
Will spend 15 minutes watching online videos like this one.
Brushing for 2 minutes now can save your child from severe tooth pain later. 2 minutes, twice a day. They have the time.
And welcome back to this week's edition of the Pete Mezzetti Show. I'm your host, sitting here with local author Bob Steele. Bob, welcome back.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we were talking about in the first segment about the casino issue, and what I wanted to do for the opening of this segment, I guess, what has been the impact of the Connecticut's current two casinos, Foxwoods and Mohegan Sun?
Well, as we started to say, the casinos on the positive side, Mohegan Sun and Foxwoods, have brought hundreds of millions of dollars a year to the state treasury in shared slot machine revenue. And they also created initially some 23,000 jobs. But the situation has changed dramatically now. The amount of money, the number of, and the whole boom in the casino industry business in Connecticut was sparked by out-of-state residents coming because Connecticut's casinos basically had a monopoly on casino gambling in the Northeast. That monopoly now obviously is gone. And because it's gone, there are fewer and fewer out-of-staters coming. And that means more and more of the revenue going to the state of Connecticut and going to the casinos is coming from Connecticut people. And that means that that revenue is all being funded by the gambling losses of Connecticut people, or the great majority of it. One, you've got a declining industry. You've got the social and public health problems that casinos create that we began to talk about, and that includes crime, it includes gambling addiction. One of the things that happened after the casinos came in was a sharp spike in the number of Connecticut people seeking treatment for gambling addiction, for example. The studies that have been done show that the benefit of bringing a casino into most communities is very, very short term. And that on a long-term basis, the cost-to-benefit ratio, according to the economists, is about 3 to 1. That is, the costs are 3 times greater than the benefits. So this is clearly a longer-term negative, would be, for the state of Connecticut, increasing casino gambling further. And not only that, but when the tribes and their legislative supporters initially proposed building convenience casinos in Connecticut, they proposed building not 1, but 3. They backed off that proposal because they didn't think they could get 3 through the legislature all at once. And currently they're proposing 1. The legislature will probably vote on that 1 come February or March once the legislature comes back into session. But there is a whole long litany and list of negatives that come with casinos. And for the most part, they're brought in by legislatures who are just blinded by the initial revenue and really don't do their homework about what the longer-term impact of the casino is on the economy and, even more importantly, on the society.
Exactly. Now, despite the problems of a new casino would bring, casino supporters argued the jobs and revenues of the new casino would provide a home run for the state of Connecticut. What do you think?
Well, that's what they're arguing. They're saying, look, it's going to bring revenue, and look, it's
going to be a home run for the state.
it's going to bring some jobs.
Right.
What it will actually do is pull some jobs out of eastern Connecticut. Some of those jobs will go to northern Connecticut. Some of those jobs initially will be new jobs. But unless the new proposed casino is different from new casinos that are being built now across the Northeast, it will shortly start downhill. You know, I mentioned the Plain Ridge Casino up in Plainville, Massachusetts. That opened just last June, and it is Massachusetts' first casino. It's an all-slots casino. And the projection was it would bring in $260 million the first year. They've already lowered that projection to about $160 million. So this is what is happening. And Massachusetts, of course, intends to build a casino in Springfield, another one in Boston, another one in Taunton, Massachusetts. They're even talking about, there's an argument whether or not one should be built out on Martha's Vineyard.
Really?
So there's going to be a serious oversaturation of casinos. And as soon as that starts, of course, the casino revenue will, the downturn here in Connecticut will accelerate.
Now, from what I understand, that it's middle-aged and senior women are one of the main focuses, are the new faces of addicted gamblers. Is that true?
That is true. According to the research, what has happened is, you know, when the major casinos were in Las Vegas and in Atlantic City, the major draw was table games. But what has happened since then is that there has been an enormous proliferation of slot machines. And women are particularly attracted to slot machines, where men are more inclined to play table games. It's not entirely one way or another, but that's the, you know, the ratio is about 75% woman.
Okay.
And these slot machines, the modern slot machine has basically become an extremely addictive device. As a matter of fact, there's a book recently published by a brilliant professor at MIT by the name of Natasha Scholl. The name of the book is Addiction by Design, and it details in great detail, great dramatic detail, how today's slot machines have been designed to be as addictive as possible, to keep people playing as long as possible, so they lose as much money over time as possible. And these slot machines are now everywhere, it seems, in this country. And not just at casinos. They're now spilling out from casinos into society at large. For example, in the state of Oregon today, there are some 12,000 video slot machines outside casinos in so-called lottery delicatessens. In the state of Illinois now, Illinois has 10 casinos. Okay. But outside the casinos, they now have over 20,000 slot machines in restaurants, bars, taverns, fraternal clubs, truck stops, so-called gaming cafes, even in a couple flower shops they've begun to put them into. So this is spilling over into neighborhoods and society in general. And even here in Connecticut, you know, as I know you know, Pete, earlier this year, the legislature approved and put into the budget approval of the casino game Keno, which is going to now be legal, casino-type gambling, Keno, which is a casino game in restaurants, bars, taverns, and convenience stores across Connecticut. So it means now if you're a family and you've got a couple kids, you want to go out and have dinner, you may well pick one of these restaurants, and there are likely to be hundreds of them, where not only can you order dinner with your kids, but as a family you can even gamble while you have dinner. And I'm sure that will be a great, great addition to the state and to people's digestion as they eat.
Exactly, exactly. Now, I guess there's an issue that has arisen recently with betting on sports fantasy in the sports industry, including FanDuel, King Draft, argue that their businesses is not really gambling, but many states seek it as gambling because they argue it's illegal gambling. What's likely to happen there?
Well, if you're a pro football fan and you watch the Patriots on Sunday, or you watch the Patriots-Jets game, or you watch the Giants the other night, you know that FanDuel and their like are constantly advertising on professional football and have been advertising on other professional sports to get people to gamble on sports, on games. They call it daily fantasy sports. It used to be for the whole season, but now they actually do it daily. And what has happened is DraftKings and FanDuel have claimed that it's not really gambling, but it very clearly is gambling. Almost everybody outside of those two companies agree it's gambling. As a matter of fact, Illinois, just this week, the Attorney General of Illinois declared it to be gambling and said it was illegal in the state of Illinois. The Attorney General of New York has declared it to be illegal in the state of New York. In Nevada, the Attorney General has declared it illegal in Nevada. Well, Connecticut hasn't said a word about it yet. Massachusetts, so far, is going along with it. But what it does is, I mean, you know, when you watch pro football, you know, who's a part of that audience? Millions of kids across America, millions of sports fans across the country. And what this does is at break time, what it is doing is urging people who are watching television to gamble on football. And that kind of gambling is illegal in Connecticut. It's about time Connecticut called it illegal, just as New York and and Illinois and Nevada have. I can't tell you what's going to happen in every state, but the closer the states look at it, the more inclined they are to call it illegal and ban it in their states.
Now, where do you think the continued spread of casinos and other legalized gambling is likely to lead?
Well, I think, we talked about Oregon, what is happening there, Illinois, what is happening there. I could talk about other states with card rooms and increased legalized gambling. What has happened increasingly is there are, first of all, more and more casinos, and legalized gambling in the form of slot machines and other type of gambling is spreading now into various communities, into neighborhoods, et cetera. So there is more and more of it. Here in Connecticut, we're seeing exactly what is happening with Keno now for restaurants, bars, taverns, and convenience stores, and of course the drive to open a new casino, convenience casino up in the Hartford area, which is very likely would be followed by at least 2 more casinos, because the tribes initially also wanted to open one in the Bridgeport area and in the Danbury area in order to compete with New York casinos.
Now, as far as and I guess you were a highly successful Republican congressman. What do you think about the current fight with the Republican Party for the presidential nomination, and who do you think will get the nomination ultimately?
Well, I think it's very unfortunate for the Republican Party, first of all.
All right.
Because we've got so many candidates that it's very, very hard to focus seriously on any one.
Right.
I think that field obviously is going to be winnowed down.
Yeah.
I think that eventually, I think that Marco Rubio will get stronger. I think several other candidates other than Donald Trump will get stronger. And I think finally, we'll get down to after the New Hampshire and Iowa primaries, we'll start getting down to 2 or 3 really serious candidates, and we'll see what happens.
All right. Well, Bob Steele, we're about to run out of time, but before we do, I want to thank you for coming down. Hopefully we'll have you on again soon.
Thanks a lot, Pete. Nice to see you again.
You too, you too. On behalf of Bob Steele, I'm Pete Mezzetti. Thanks, good night, and we'll see you next week.